Morning to you. This is Kakaaki Social. I'm Rena Obozeghie. Thank you so much for holding on. We needed to finish that analogy of what's going on in other countries compared to us here. Now, we'll continue on that, and it will be that after hours of talks, the meeting between the federal government and organized labor ended at about 11 p.m. yesterday, but they could reach some resolutions. One is that the federal government is committed to a national minimum wage that is higher than 60,000 naira that they are proposing right now. And then another one is the tripartite committee is to meet every day for the next 1 week with the hopes of arriving at an agreeable national minimum wage. Another one is that organized labor should convene a meeting of its organs immediately to consider suspending an ongoing strike. And finally, that no worker would be victimized as a result of the industrial action. Now, those were the resolutions from the meeting yesterday. Now, while the protest lasted yesterday too, Nigerian workers dared members of the National Assembly to also make themselves earn the 30,000 naira current minimum wage.
Paid within 2-3 days, the salary is nowhere to be found. Is that not Yayipo? The suffering is so much. Why will the federal government? They said round table, the N60, the TUC, they have been, deliberating on this round table for so long. They didn't feel that they should be putting 200 today, 300 tomorrow, 500 the next day for a minimum wage. The Senate, the whatever, let them put their salary on this minimum wage too, and let's see what will happen. Wow. Yeah. Let it go around. Let it go around like that.
Okay, so that was it yesterday, and this clip is from Lagos. You could see Lasut Laboratory right there, so that was from Lagos State University of Teaching Hospital. Let's see some reactions, how this met netizens, because FG and federal government, NLC, TUC were definitely the trends for yesterday. Hype Man Guru says, I support the 30K for lawmakers too. They are not bigger than the citizens they represent. Now, could you imagine that after the discussions and all the figures that we presented you with this morning on Kakaaki, lawmakers from all of that they earn will now come down to 30K. Like, are they going to do it? But let's see what happens. The federal government says they would pay more than 60,000, no amount given yet. And Lord Kabaski says this is not an agreement, this is a sham. So it's going to take a week to agree as regards minimum wage. But it was so easy for national anthem to change. Nigeria will hail the truly. And in another reaction, Bad Lieutenant says 61,000 naira is also higher than 60K. Let them say the amount. Apparently, they would agree on a figure in about a week. And this user says this is part one. Now, for this to mean anything, two things must happen as soon as possible. Number one would be reducing cost of food, and number two, do whatever it takes to get dollar down below 1,000 naira. And then it's still related to this, but this is another story where human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, is urging the National Assembly to hurriedly pass an enactment to set a new minimum wage that will resonate with current economic realities in Nigeria. He's saying that they have to do it the same way they did in the case of the national anthem. Now, Falana, in a statement on Monday, argued that the National Minimum Wage Act of 2019 has since expired, and there is a need for the government at all levels to review and pass a new law to that effect. And in his words, it says the National Assembly should therefore pass speedily a new National Minimum Wage Act like the new National Anthem Act that was enacted within 48 hours last week. In reaction to this on X, Mazi says, if they improve the quality of life of the people, how then would they buy vote with spaghetti and tin tomatoes? I mean, this is, I don't know. This user says, Naira Rates News, it says, that's long overdue. I don't understand how workers manage their families with less than $50 salary per month. And he's thinking right there with the emojis. Lob says, not just that, they should remove some of their allowances so it can be used to increase the salary from 60K 60,000 naira currently proposed. And then in another story, about another big one yesterday, it's financial, and it was in a shocking development that on Monday, the Central Bank of Nigeria announced that it has revoked the operating license of Heritage Bank, effectively closing the bank and placing depositors at the mercy of the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, that is NDIC. Well, this is over its alleged failure to comply with the Bank and Other Financial Institutions Act of 2020, despite previous warnings. Now, the NDIC is also announcing that the liquidation process of the bank has commenced, and it says that insured deposit of up to 5 million naira will be refunded to customers. And you will now be asking, oh, what is less than 50 million naira? What happens? Apparently, we'll shine more light on this or shed more light on this one. And Joe says, I wonder why they spent money sponsoring Big Brother Niger instead of improving their services. That's referring to Heritage Bank right there. They were a one-time sponsor of the reality TV show, and they're asking, apparently one of their staff members was a housemate, and maybe that's why they needed to, but they once sponsored Big Brother Niger. And Joe is wondering, if they don't have money, how come they were a sponsor of such a show? And then in other reactions, Momo says, Heritage Bank had 590 billion naira in NPLs, that's non-performing loans. This is why CBN had to step in. The credit risk team should be in prison. But reacting to Maurice is this user who says you can't blame the risk asset team for all non-performing loans, because most of the loans that become doubtful or lost are typically approved by the board, which include all EDs and the CEO. They can only advise, but the demons are between the accountant officers and executive management. And also, now going to the CBN is Obozeghie, who says Central Bank of Nigeria officials in Banking Supervision Department should also be in prison, because these non-performing loans didn't happen overnight. What kind of report were they churning out after each inspection of the bank over time, not supporting the rot, but just saying it's a systemic thing? Well, they said that they needed to save the day, and that's why they are doing this. So just to remind you that the NDIC says that payment of depositors with liquidated Heritage Bank account holding account of 5 million naira and below will commence on Monday, and that's what they said yesterday. And then for depositors that are holding more than 5 million naira, they said that we need to wait or await the resolution of the liquidated bank's asset and the subsequent generation of funds before their balances can be disposed. If you're wondering what happens to the money of the customers of the bank, that is it right there. So yeah, that's how we call it a day today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Rena OBO on social media. We can